issues in environmental hazardous materials, communication and signals, and 3 more lines of stuff. So, needless to say, he keeps pretty busy. So we're quite delighted that he was able to fit in a little trip into the Houghton, and once we got him here, we don't let him go a little so easy. Before being with the AAR, he joined Parsons Prinkenhoff in 1997 as a vice president and program area manager, and that was after 30 years career in the U.S. rail industry. At PP, his responsibilities included developing a railroad industry strategic plan, both for the domestic and international markets, providing internal technical rail support, and providing professional presence. Before PB, he was a Vice President Operations and Chief Operations Officer of Amtrak. So Bob has been both on the freight and passenger and consulting and all the other sides. He also had other positions with Amtrak, including Vice President of Customer Service, Vice President of Transportation, General Manager of National Operations, and General Manager of Northeast Corridor. And going a little bit further backwards, he's a graduate of the University of Tennessee with major in transportation, and after that he chose the New York Central Railroad. And he also completed various graduate school programs, both at Darden Graduate School, School of Business at the University of Virginia, as well as the Harvard Business School. And he's a fellow with Chartered Institute for Logistics and Transport, and is active in several professional organizations, serving on the board of both professional public organizations. And trust me, I cut his bio to about half. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Bob VanderClute as the keynote speaker.
Well, thank you, Posse. I'll have to tell you, spending a whole day with Posse is invigorating, and I learned an awful lot. And mainly, I learned what a great school you have here. Excellent faculty, and I'm truly impressed with the students that I've met. So you really deserve a nice hand for being in a good school here. So congratulations. Now, I don't know if it's the door prizes that's keeping everybody here, or that Posse whispered to me that everybody was getting extra credit, so for staying. Just a brief history about the Association of American Railroads. It's a very old organization, and it was developed back in the 1860s when it was determined that different railroads were building different gauges, and cars were not able to be interchanged, and it was decided at that point that we really needed to get our act together as an industry, and so an association was formed to normalize the technical aspects of rolling stock and equipment. That evolved into the American Railroad Association, and then in 1934 the AAR as we know it today was formed. We have a number of services. Basically, we're owned by Class 1 railroads, but we have, we're committee managed. We have our board of directors, which consists of the CEOs of almost all the Class 1s. And then it's broken down into 2 major committees, the chief operating officers, and who else? The chief legal officers. So I have nothing to do with the chief legal officers, but I do deal very extensively with the chief operating officers. Policy and advocacy group, they look out for the best interests of the industry in Washington, which isn't always easy. The safety and operations group, which is one of my groups, and industry promotion. We have several functional areas: safety and operations, government affairs, policy and economics, those little yellow books are created by our policy and economics group. If you read Journal of Commerce, you'll see pages of statistics that come from our policy and economics group. It's a pretty active group. Communications and public relations, and then legal and finance and administration. These are our Class 1 railroads, and what I wanted to point out here was you'll see Canadian, CP, CN, you'll see Mexican carriers, you'll see passenger carriers, and you'll see freight carriers. This is a network industry, and to have a network, you have to have a cooperative effort. So from Mexico to Alaska, we're all together with the AAR. AAR has three subsidiaries. One, and we'll talk about this later, is Transportation Technology Center, TTCI, in Pueblo, Colorado. The second is Rail Link, that's in Cary, North Carolina. We have about 200 people there, and they process all the data between railroads, between customers. It's our IT department. And then we have a Railroad Research Foundation that works with government grants and others on research projects. We contract out a lot of those projects to schools and to other entities. This is obviously an advertisement. Again, we cover all the states except Hawaii. 1.5, 1.6 million freight cars, 31,000 locomotives, seamless across border except for customs. At any one time, there's at least 50, 60 Mexican locomotives in the US, and Canadian locomotives are back and forth constantly. So again, it's a network industry. This is what we carry. You'll see coal is up number one. And this obviously is a concern, although a lot of this coal is export coal for us as well as domestic. Consumer is basically intermodal. And that and coal swap every once in a while. Sometimes intermodal will be number one, other times it will be coal. Chemicals, food, you can read the number, but it's our gross revenue in 2011, I think, was 65 billion US. If you go away with only one chart and one graph, this is the chart I want you to have. It shows that in 1980, the Staggers Act was passed. And basically what that did was eliminate a lot of unreasonable regulations from the industry. And you can see the productivity of the industry went much higher. The volume grew. The revenue fell slightly, but the rates went down. We have some of the lowest rates anywhere in the world. Just goes to show you what happens when government gets out of the way and lets private industry do their job. So it implemented reasonable regulation. It got the government out of really running the railroads. It kept regulatory safeguards. It took it from the ICC to the STB, and it recognized that to have a freight system, you really have, somebody has to pay for it, and the market is far superior to the government than in figuring out who should pay. So that was really a milestone, I think, for the industry. And one of our goals always is to keep those regulations reasonable, and that's not always easy. You can see the productivity. We spoke earlier about cabooses on the trains. Now we have electronic devices that take the place. When I started, we had 5 and 6 person crews. We're now down to 2. Amtrak, when they run on runs of 5 hours or less, run with 1. So the productivity has improved tremendously. And this is an interesting statistic, but you can haul 1 ton of freight about 500 miles on 1 gallon of fuel. Or you can go coast to coast with 1 ton on 7 gallons. And takes a truck 27 gallons. 1 train can haul 225, 230 containers. We're very environmentally conscious, and this slide shows what we're trying to do, but we're keeping things off the highway. We spoke earlier at our table about injuries and illnesses. The rail industry is really a rather safe industry. And when you start comparing it to other facets of our life, you know, you look at grocery stores, twice as much as railroads. But we're proud of our safety record. Last year was the safest year ever for the industry. We talked about the 175,000 well-paid employees that supports over 1 million other jobs. The average rates since '81, when we had the Staggers Act, have dropped by 45%. And I think that's something that we can all be pleased with. That, by the way, is a track laying machine. Of the 175,000, most of our employees are unionized. The third bullet, I think, is very interesting. We pay our people well. We have a great retention record for our employees. If you look at the wages of 73,000, benefits of 30,000, total compensation for an average worker is 100,000. Part of the reason, I think, is we have a railroad retirement system that is not funded by the government. It's funded by the employer and the employee. And it's an excellent program that I think keeps people, once they hit that 5-year number, they want to stay. It's a 30-60 program. And again, if you look at the freight carriers, the wages and benefits versus U.S. average, you can see that we're proud of what we pay, and we're proud of our employees. And this is how the wages break down. And again, these are average. Now, one of the reasons you all should be considering coming to work for a railroad is because some of us are up in that right-hand bar, and there's a great percentage over 55. And as you start joining the workforce, that gap will grow, and it will create a lot of opportunities for each of you to move up in the organization. This is the railroads versus civilian workers, and you can see where the railroad workers are much older. So to me, that tells me that there's opportunities here for you. Questions were raised on what is PTC, and I'll just briefly hit that. It's an overlay system to the existing signal system that that would automatically slow or stop a train to avoid train-to-train collisions, derailments caused by excessive speed, unauthorized incursions by trains into sections of track where maintenance is taking place, and movement of a train through a track switch left in the wrong position. Now, PTC is a government-mandated program. It's costing us, it's getting now close to $10 billion that, again, we're paying for. There's not one penny of government funds into that. It's not a program that we would choose to do. For every dollar that we save, we spend 25. So it's not a very good business decision to do it from our perspective. But needless to say, we're required to do it. We're doing it. Last year we had over 1,000 people working to implement this system. We spent over $1 billion of our own funds to start to develop it. This is basically a very simplified slide of how the PT system works, but it keeps track of every locomotive on the main line, goes back to an office segment and a wayside segment, and then slows the train down accordingly. I talked about TTCI and some of the strategic research initiatives. These are things that I thought you'd all be interested in because they're things that, we saw many similar type projects here today and on the boards. But TTCI is a fantastic place for those of you who haven't been there. And I'll have a short video of TTCI for you as well. It's a facility located in Pueblo, Colorado. It's about 50 square miles, and there's 60 miles of track there. We have third rail for transit. We have catenary for high-speed passenger trains. We can go 160. We're looking at how we could get it up to 2.25 if high-speed ever takes off in the U.S. We have a fast track that allows us to get accelerated wear on components on trains. We just run a train of 10,000, 12,000 tons around in a circle, unmanned, just to get those wear components. There's a number of websites with information that you might want to follow up with to get some additional information. Certainly, we'll keep in close touch with Posse, so anything that we can do to help any of you, feel free to call. The AAR, again, represents all of the railroads, and we are owned by them, so feel free to give us a call. And now if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Yes?
Europe doesn't have an AAR. What's the situation over there?
Well, as you know, they have a UIC, of which I'm on the board of UIC, and that's based in Paris. But those are not requirements, they're best practices. So different railroads still do different things. And of course, that was a nationalized system. Europe has gone a different route than North America. They are forming infrastructure companies and then contracting out operations, so you can bid on an operation. It's a totally different operation than here in America, but they do have the UIC, which is in many ways similar to the AAR. Yes?
Bob, you showed that slide that showed the number of people that are getting ready to retire from the railroad business. Is it equally distributed among all trades? Is it in a specific area? operations, management? Where
No,
is it?
I'd say the curve is pretty uniform. There isn't one group in particular. Okay, hearing none, I'll return it back to Posse.
You have one more question, Rob? All right. Thank you, Bob. And we do have a little, don't slip away yet, we do have a little token of appreciation from Michigan Tech. We have Michigan Tech Transportation Institute hat for you, and we have Red Transportation Program coffee mug, and of course the important bottle opener.